All right. Hope you guys are doing good today. So we are going to learn the next topics in Java. Today we are in day 5, where we are going to talk about packages, comments, result words, statements, and blocks in Java. So first thing is we will understand what is this all about and how we can um, use it in Java. These are very easy to understand concepts. Hopefully, you guys will feel like very simple topics for today, not like any complex to understand. But these topics, whatever we are learning here, we will be using in any application. So first, we will start with packages. So when I say packages, packages are nothing but the grouping of classes or interfaces or annotations, etc., etc. So when we say package, right? So let's say you are placing some order, right? And you're getting your actual order, the online order items in your package, which is nothing but a container which is holding your actual items, whichever you are looking for, right? Similarly, whenever you are trying to create any classes or interfaces in Java, you have to group it and then you have to put it in a package so that like it's kind of like a folder, right? Within the folder you are creating files, class files and interfaces. When you make it as a jar file, so we call that as a package, so that all the related classes or the interfaces and annotations, we will see what is interface and what is annotations in the upcoming classes. But so far we have seen like what is classes and other stuff, like objects and other stuff. So once you start writing your application, you have to package it. The reason is that you can avoid the naming conflict. As I said earlier, let's say one developer is creating a class with some demo, and another developer in the same project who is working on the same project, he also wants to create another class with the same name demo. He cannot create the same class in the same package, right? So that is the reason you can able to create, let's say, demo class in your package, and another developer can create another package. Within that package, he can create the same class like demo inside that. Second thing is it's helping every developer easily to search a particular class. Let's say now we are like whatever we're writing is like very simple Java programs. When you start writing actual application, your application will have like thousands of classes and thousands of interfaces, whatnot, right? So in that time, if you want to search something, then you have to see exactly in which package your class is. If you guys come across or you can Google it, date. There is a class called date in Java. So before Java 1.8, Oracle has introduced a date class in two packages. One is in java.util, other one is java.sql. So a developer, whenever we want to implement the date in Java, they are always confused which package date class I should use it. So it's kind of like they want to create a date class in both the packages and they created it, but the developers are getting confused which date file I should use it in Java, whether to use it from the java.util package or java.sql package. So that is where like we have introduced like Java 1.8 comes up with a wonderful idea of introducing. We don't need to use a date class. We don't need to use calendar class. We don't need to use Gregorian calendar classes. We can use date, date and time, local. There are a lot of other APIs they have introduced in 1.8. So the point here is that whenever we try to create a class, we should create under one package or interfaces or annotations, whatever we create in Java, it should be under one package. There are two types of packages. They call it, one is a default package, other one is user defined package. When I say default package, I'm going to create a project where you will see what is default package and user defined package. So let me first start creating a program where, so I'm not sure if you guys noticed here, this one was, excuse me, this one was automatically created by Eclipse, right? Default package. So let me go and create a new project. Let's say file, new Java project. Let's say I'm saying check underscore batch and demo. You guys have option here, right, to choose what your environment should be, what version of Java you have to use, all those stuff. And if you guys see here, you can see build settings, what you want to build it. You can define your output folder, right? All the class fields will be under bin folder, and you will have a SRC folder where you have all your source codes, right? And then when you click on finish, come here. Whenever you click on SRC, you create a class, right? And you are just saying that, let's say demo1, and you are making it a main class. Let's say finish. You guys see here, it created under default package. So in Java, you can create a classes or interfaces under a default package, or you can define your new package. Let's say package name is my demo, where I can store all my demo classes inside here. And then in this package, you can right click and then you can create a class. Let's say demo2. Ideally, we should not create a class with like numbers, just for to show the differences. I'm creating it like this. You guys see here, demo1, demo2. This is under default package, which is something like out of the box. Demo2 is nothing but like it has created under my demo package. So these are the two types of packages they call it. One is user defined, the other one is default package. So let's say you have a demo1 Java class in the default package, and the other one is demo2 in the my demo package, right? Now I am in demo2 class where I'm trying to create an object for this class demo1. How I can create demo1 d is equal to, or d1 is equal to new demo1 now, isn't it? You see here it is throwing compile time error, which means it is not able to identify this demo1 because this demo1 is in the other package, but you are writing a class demo2 inside this package, isn't it? So what you can do here is you can do import statement. What you can do here, you can import it after your package statement. You can use import demo1. You see here, okay, you are not able to use demo1 directly here. You have to organize the imports. Why is it not working? Control shift. Oh, wait a minute. Oops. Okay, let me see. Or I will do one thing. Command shift O is not working here. If you guys see here, instead of demo1, I will use this way. So we have demo do.java in this package and the same class in this one, right? Probably to avoid this conflict, I will rename this class name. So package name and the class name will be the same. You guys will correlate here. So I'm renaming it to demo.java, which is under demo package. And the second thing is demo2.java, right? This one I will change it to demo1. So that you guys will give me a minute. Yeah, now you see. So we have two packages. One is my demo, where you have like demo.java, and the other package is my demo1, where you have demo1.java, right? So in this class, you're trying to create an object of this class, which is called demo d equal to new demo of. Okay. So while this class is getting compiled, it is trying to look for this class. but it is not able to get it. So that is the reason it is trying to look for it. So where you have to import it, meaning like you are going to reference it even though the class is in another package. Now it's coming, right? Import demo. So which is nothing but importing my demo, which means this is a package name, my demo. Demo is the class name, right? So typically, when we start writing application in typical MVC application, what we do here is even the Spring Boot or any applications in the web application, we have like model view controller, right? Where we have all the files which are related to view, which is like a JSP or any UI components, we put it under that package. And whatever we are writing a business logic, we put it under controller package. And whatever we do with the objects like model, data objects, we put it under the model package. A developer, once we start creating application, first thing is they have to create the packages so that like they can categorize the classes and interfaces which a developer is going to create for the application, so that it won't create any conflicts. So let me save this one. Now if you guys see here, you are able to import it, right? You are able to import from there. So this is how you can able to create multiple packages, and you can have all the classes under the particular package, and you can able to reuse it, meaning reference it even though it is under different packages. The other way of using this one is, instead of import statement, you can also do one more thing. So what you can do here, it's working, right? Okay. You guys see here, you can do like this. This is called fully qualified name. So if you're trying to create an object for demo, you are telling where this demo is there, right? This demo class. Yeah, basically this demo class is, the demo class is in my demo package, right? You can define your package name dot the class name. But typically, when you writing application, you will have a number of places where you create objects. And also, if you want to import lot of classes under this package, what you can do, instead of doing this fully qualified name, you have to use the import statement. So that is the ideal way. But I'm just telling like how you can do other than import statement. If someone asks you if you don't have import statement, whether this program will throw any error or not, right? Basically, this program won't throw an error because you are actually importing it. Let's assume that, let's say your my demo package contains more than like or like let's say you have like hundreds of classes. You cannot write import my demo dot demo my demo dot t1 t2 like that, right? So what you can do here is my demo dot star, which means all the classes under this package is getting imported, whether I'm using it or not. You can able to import it, so that whenever you create something here, you don't need to define specifically like that. So let me show you that. Let me create one more class here. Let's say something called test class, and we are not writing anything over there. Just I create a class over there, and in our actual class, let's say if I say test t equal to new test of, see it works because you are using star, which means all the classes under the package, not only classes, anything you write under the package will be imported here, which means like you can able to use it here. This is one of the advantage. And the other one is as we know that like you can have public or private or protected, right? Whenever you declare anything public, which means that particular class or variables or methods can be accessed anywhere in your application. When I say application, this is your project, right? So this project, anywhere you can able to access it. If you think like you want to put a strict security control over there, then you can make it private, so that that private means like only that particular class can able to access control over there. Once you come out of the class, you won't be able to access those private properties. And if you make it protected, which means only that package can able to access it. Other than that package, no one can able to access it. It all based on the requirement, how you want to implement it, but this is the concept behind the scenes. So this is how you can create a packages, and you can categorize your classes, interfaces, or whatever you're writing in your program, you can write under your packages. So when I say package, you can define it as like package A, and then you can write a class A, and then you can in another package B, you are writing a class B, where you are writing an object of this one, where you are importing it. So this is what we have seen so far. So if you see the structure of a Java class, if you put this package name after this import statement, it will throw compile time error. The reason is that first thing you have to tell compiler where you are writing this particular class. First statement should be always package in Java. If you are writing a package statement, it should be in the first line of the code. If you guys see here default package, right? You are not defining the package name because that is default. So compiler knows that this class you are writing inside the default. But whenever we define our own package, and inside the package, whenever we define our classes, so the first line of code in your program should be the package. This is like a kind of some rule that we should know whenever we write any class in our own user-defined packages. The first line of your code should be the package name, and we have to use import keyword or fully qualified class name. Basically, import is always preferred. So this is all about packages, and where are you actually using it? Probably you guys can take a look here. So assume that let's say you are using Java 1.8 in your application or a project. So Java 1.8 is nothing but the difference between Java 1.8 and 1.7. Assume you have 1.7, also 1.8. So when compared to 1.7, you will have some more libraries in 1.8, which means that library is nothing but the list of classes and interfaces and whatnot, right? So in Java, they have defined by Oracle, by Sun Microsystems. If you guys see here, java.lang, java.util, java.io, java.net, java.applet. So which means they have categorized whenever they create a classes and interfaces, when they build a language, they define the list of classes like this: class, object, string, thread. These are all class. Class is a class, object is a class, string is a class, thread is a class in Java. All these classes, they put it under java.lang package, which means there is a core language, right? These are all belongs to a language itself. And if you guys see here, java.util, util is nothing but utilities, where you can use it for kind of helper activities. Let's say date, calendar, hash table, linked list. These are all related to utilities, where you can start with writing code, and where you can get the date or get the calendar like that, right? So these are under util package. Similarly, if you deal with anything with input and output, IO stream and output streams, they put it under java.io. If you try to do anything like remote method invocation, RMI concepts in Java, or any kind of network traffics, or any you're passing some traffic packets of data and receiving in another end, then you will be using like socket or URLs. These are all the classes which are under java.net. And nowadays we are not using applet much more. But even if you guys see here the Eclipse, whatever we are doing here is built in Java, and these are all built with the help of applets. This is like very the panels and templates, whatever we have, is all built on Java applets. So they have a package called java.applet. And if you guys see here Java 1.8, it contains like 14 predefined packages. And within that, you'll have like 150 sub packages, which means that contains like 7,000 classes and 7 lakh methods. So whenever we want to use Java to perform our requirement, if you know what to do and how to do in Java, basically, or what we usually do is we go through the Java Oracle documentation to understand in which class, which method is actually performing that action. We will appropriately import the class to your class application, and then you will use that method. So this is how it's very matured, organized Java language with the help of package. So I hope you guys understood so far. Let me take a pause before I go to the next topic. Anyone have any questions so far? All right,
Oh, Karthik, we are good.
perfect. Let's get it. How we do comments in Java. So whenever we write a program, it should be easily readable by others, isn't it? Because we are working in a collaborative environment where one developer is writing something and other developer also should know what that is. If you want to add some extra, value to your code, and if you want to add some extra text, then you can call it as comments in Java. So what is comments is nothing but it's kind of a helping text. Basically, it helps others to understand what your program is going to do. So whenever we write a program, what we do here is, let's say you're writing on method here. Let's say public void get data, something like that, right? Anything you can write it here, right? So what I usually do here is I will write what it actually does. You guys might notice like I usually write with a double forward slash saying that to get the data, something like that, right? So this is nothing but a comment to tell other developers saying that okay, what this method is purpose. So there are two types of comments. Basically, we have like single line comments or multi-line comments. If you're writing anything in one line, then you can put using with a double forward slash. At the same time, if you are writing with a block of like more than one line, then you can do it like this way: forward slash star, then click on enter. It automatically will generate. ID will generate. So here, what you can do here is this is a multi-line command. Basically, you can say blah blah blah, and then like this. If you are trying to write a paragraph to tell what your code is actually going to do, you can write the comments inside the class, inside the method, inside or outside the class. Doesn't matter. The reason is that compiler is simply going to ignore whenever it sees this symbol because comments are not going to be compiled by the compiler. So wherever you write, it is not a problem because compiler ignores the comments in Java. It is just a understanding of what it actually does. So whenever we write a clean code, it's always recommended to write the comments here. Usually what we do here is whenever we write a class, we usually write with at the rate of author. So in Eclipse, if you go to source, you can see here generate element comment. If you click on this one, you can see you can have your author at the rate of author, and then you can say at the rate of category, then at the rate of let's say code or value. So these are all like basically you are telling who is the author of this class and what category this class has been created, whatnot, right? So you can define your own custom messages or extra helping messages to other developers or whoever sees your code and able to understand. If you guys notice here, right? Let me take a simple example where we have seen, let's say, string, right? Let me open the Oracle documentation of the string. This is the Oracle documentation of string.class, right? If you guys see here, this has been created by so many authors. 4 authors has created this class string, and as a developer, we are simply using it. And this has been introduced since JDK 1.0, which is the very first version of Java. At the rate of since means they are defining saying, okay, developer can understand, okay, since Java 1.0, this class is there, and there are like 4 authors created it, and they're saying like you can also see these referenced classes, which is like in the java.lang.string buffer, string builder. These are all the packages. Java.lang is a package, and string buffer is nothing but a class. We will see. So, and if you guys see here, they have defined everything inside by giving a multi-line comments so that we can understand what this class is going to do and how it is going to do. And basically, if you see here, package java.lang, they have created this package, and then they have imported all these packages. It's not our code actually, right? This is like a Java Oracle team core language code. We are actually decompiling the .class file and reading it in a Java format, right? So if you guys see here, they have created like package java.lang. On the java.lang package, they have created the string class. And for that string class, they're using something from here, these classes, pattern matcher, string joiner, objects, locale, arrays, array list. So these are all coming under util package. And this is coming from NIO. This is coming from IO, network input output. This is the normal input output. And these are like more extra value to the developers to understand how that particular method works or whatnot. Okay, so this is about comments in Java. Basically, you can use it anywhere where because it is not going to be compiled by the compiler. And if you guys see here, they put like this, right? This is also single line comment, right? The value is used for character storage, right? So that we know when we go through this code, you can able to understand from here. So it's always recommended to write the comments for each methods or wherever possible, so that your code looks very beautiful to understand by any others. And whenever you say you are passing this, let's say you guys see here, right? Public string of string, you are passing string variable here, right? String of type string, and variable is original. And if you guys see here at the rate of param original, which means they're trying to tell what is the parameter of this particular method. It's nothing but original. So this is how like you can define your own comments for anywhere you write. So this is basically very simple to understand the comments in Java. So what are the topics we have seen so far? Like packages and comments are very easy to understand. And now let's get into the next topic, the result keywords. You guys might notice already whenever we write a program, whenever we start writing Eclipse, you guys might see the difference in the highlighting color, right? Public class, new keyword, int, return, this, all this stuff, isn't it? Which means like Eclipse is highlighting us, okay, these are all result keywords. What do you mean by result keywords? The result keywords are something like the language has reserved those words for its own purpose, meaning it has its special meaning and purpose to be used by the language itself, wherein we cannot use that as an identifier. So when I say identifier, like if you try to use, let's say, um, class Karthik, that is possible, but you cannot create a class called class object because object itself is already there, so you cannot use it. That object is a result keyword. So I have just categorized here. Uh, it's like it's more than this, but I just categorize most of the result keywords in Java just to understand or easy to remember the diagram. The basics in Java where you do write package, first statement, first line you will write it like a package, and then you will do import, and then you will write a class, or you can write an interface, or you can write an abstract. So these keywords are result keywords in Java. Similarly, you use public, private, protected. These are also access modifiers, meaning you are actually modifying the access. When I say public, it can be accessed anywhere in your application. And whenever I say private, that variables or the methods can be accessed only within that particular class. Protected means within that particular package. So we call it as access modifiers. And yesterday we have seen like the extends and implements keyword. Implements is for interface and extends is for extending a class. So this is another category. I thought inheritance, we have these two keywords as result keywords. Similarly, this and super, this means which object you're referring. If you say this dot, which means you're referring the current object. Super means you are referring the parent class. I can show you guys here, right? So when you write this program, I think employee ID and employee name, right? And some other demo class, right? Employee demo. So what we did here is we have defined two variables, right? One is int and string, and then you created like getters and setters yesterday, right? In this, if you guys notice this dot employee ID, right? So whenever I say this dot employee ID, which means if you highlight this one, it is referring here. This dot employee ID means on this object's employee ID you are referring. So whatever the employee ID you are passing it in as a parameter to this method, that will be assigned to this method's this particular object's employee ID. That's what it means. Whenever you say super, it means it refers to the parent. If you have a parent and child class, and if you want to refer to the parent class properties, then you can use super. Super is a keyword, result keyword in Java. And you have like variables, right? Whenever you have variable like int, like this, right? Private int, you can define your variable, right? Employee ID. So you have to tell what type of data it is going to store, whether integer, float, double, like that, right? So in order to mention the variables, you have to define like byte, int, short, char, float, double, long, boolean. So true and false kind of things you can use it boolean. Long means you will have a different set of length basically based on the requirement. Whenever you define a variable, if you think like that variable uh, might have a value greater than some xyz, then you can use it long or integer like that. So also return is another keyword, which is like whenever you see return keyword here, which means assume this is a one method, right? Public boolean do authentication, and you are using return true, which means you are returning the true value back when someone calls this method, right? So which means return is a keyword where you are returning back, and similarly true and false, as you see here, true and false. And also whenever we do with exception handling in Java, we will use these keywords. We will see how to use exception handling in upcoming classes. But for now, just understand these are all the result keywords and where we are using it. So try, catch, final, finally, throw, throws. These are the keywords we will use it in exception handling. When I am teaching you guys exception handling, you will see all these keywords over there. So whenever in Eclipse or any IDE, whenever you write it, if you see some highlighted colors, then it means like these are all result keywords which we should not use it. While we do looping statements, do, while, for, these are all looping statements, right? So they are all result keywords. Like condition statements, let's say if, else, switch, break, continue, default. These are all condition statements. These are all like result keywords. When you go in deeper into Java, when you start with collections, multi-threading, where you will see keyword called enum. Enum is nothing but if you want to define the list of constants, so you can create enum. So typical example is the time zones, right? We have different time zones in the world. So they're all constants, right? Each will have like GMT -5, GMT -6, -7, like that, right? You can define enum. That is one typical practical example I can talk about. And whenever you have instance of, this is another keyword. Basically, if you want to check this object is instance of which class, right? Because we know object is an instance of a class. So if you have an object, let's say a equal to new a of, if you say a dot instance of, that is going to return back this a object is of type which class. That's where you can use this one whenever you want to check that. And native is kind of a modifier for a method. We rarely use this one because native means when they create a Java language. So initially they have some methods which are workable for C languages, which are like platform dependent languages. Those methods are carry forward. I don't think nowadays we are using any native methods to implement any of our logic. Just to notice that like native is a keyword in Java. And volatile is nothing but in a multi-threading environment where you have, let's say you are defining a variable and you are you want to have more than one thread to access that particular variable, and whenever one thread is actually updating the value of a variable, typically other thread doesn't know the updated value. If you want to make that work, then you can use volatile. So in a multi-threading, when you go deeper into that, we will see all this. And you guys know that there is a keyword called new to create an object in the memory for a class, right? So these are all about resort keywords, and we have talked about like very small concepts today, just to get a highlight of what it's all about. Anyone have any questions so far before we start the next session and then the upcoming topics? There are two more topics which I need to cover for today.
I'm good, Karthik.
Okay. So what I would suggest or recommend you guys is that when you start writing a program, start writing class and objects, right? Creating objects. That time you notice whatever you have highlighted in the this kind of colors. You will notice it. You don't need to memorize these keywords because nowadays we are using IDE to create a class and interfaces. So it is just for to understand whether we can use it in your place or not in your user defined. So if you guys see here, right, private int balance equal to 500. Private is a result keyword, int is a result keyword, and this is like identifier, which is like a variable name, isn't it? So here I cannot use simply saying, return something like that, because return is already reserved for Java. I cannot use like this, right? Because here it is expecting a variable. It's not like you cannot use variable as a result keywords. So result keywords as a variable. Sorry. So this is all about all these topics. We will regroup in the next session, and then we will go through the next 2 more topics for today, and then we'll discuss more. Thank you, guys. We'll join back. Okay, cool. So now we are going to talk about 2 more topics, which are like statements and blocks. So in Java, whatever we write, we call it as a statement. So so statements are nothing but like the code which you're writing is nothing but the statements. So there are different types of statements we can say. So what we're trying to do here is you are declaring a variable int a comma b, which means like this is a declaration statement, right? You are not actually assigning a value to this variable. You are just saying, hey JVM, I need a and b of type int. So JVM, what it does internally, it will create a area in the memory with a and b with integer means 4 bytes, right? Which means like it will create like that. And then you can say a equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, which means this 1, 2, 3, 4 is a variable, or sorry, value. It's literal, right? You are assigning it to the variable a, which is a variable name. And similarly, we call this particular kind of statements, we call it as assignment statement or express statements. And if you say everything in one line, int c equal to a plus b, or int c equal to 54 plus b, something like that, right? Here, what you are doing here is within one line, you are actually initializing. Initializing means you are telling JVM to create a variable called c of type int, and also you are giving the value also, assign the value, right? Basically, initialization is nothing but the combination of assignment statement and declaration statement. If you guys see here, int count on count equal to 4, if I write like this. So int count means I'm declaring a variable count of type int. That's all. I'm just declaring it. I'm not telling what value it should have. In the next line, the line number 14, I'm saying count equal to 4, which means I'm expressing, saying, this is the value it should have, which is nothing but assignment statement. Then there is another type, we call it as control flow statements, where you'll have like if else, while, do while, all those type of statements, where like switch case, all those statements, we call it as control flow statements, which you can write like, let's say if the if statement, right, you can write within curly braces and then you can write your logic. So every statement, whatever we do in Java, always ends with semicolon in Java. So that is a syntax we should follow. So the moment if you see semicolon, it means that particular statement is completed, and the next whatever you're writing is the next statement. So this is like when you get into the code, you might notice like somewhere like people write like int count, and some places they write int count comma sum comma add, like that. So you can write anywhere however you want, but you need to understand what is the variable, what is the value, how to write a statements in Java, and how to actually make your how to see how your variables are getting assigned the value internally. We can go through that. So I hope you guys have noticed this statements already. We call it as statements in Java. Basically, we call it as in other programming languages we call line or something like that, line statements or something like that. Here they call it as just simply statements. The other one is blocks. So blocks are nothing but, if you guys see here this diagram, I want to explain over here. You are writing like public class name, and then you are writing with curly braces, right? So which means you are trying to write something inside this class, right? So the number 1 begins here and then number 1 ends here. Similarly, you are writing public static void main string args, then you are doing like curly braces. It starts here and it ends here. So which means your method is starting here and then ending point, and your class starts here and ending point. Similarly, you can also create like blocks. Blocks are nothing but the curly braces in Java. Okay, so you can start writing your blocks inside the method or also outside methods. If you guys see this side, I have a class called public class blocks demo. Here you see main method is here, but I have written some block outside of this. So you can write something like this, starts here, ends here. anything, the statements, whatever you write in Java should be within a block, right? So that's a mandatory. So I will show you demo. So here I want to create a class called blocks demo. Let me close all other Java codes. So here I have a class called block demo.java, right? So this is the block, class level block. This is the method, isn't it? So now I try to say sysout, which means system.out.println. I'm going to say inside main method. Let me run this program. Okay, inside main method. This works very sharp, right? So let's say I'm getting something like this. Then I'm going to say sysout inside a block. Let me go and run this program. You guys notice this was not executed. The reason is that this class, whenever you try to execute it, basically this class is getting executed by a thread. That thread we call it as main thread, which is nothing but your laptop or your machine RAM where the JVM sits. That JVM allocates process. That process internally subdivides into threads. And one thread we call it as main thread, which is responsible to execute this main method. And that thread doesn't know to execute this piece of code because that is not the scope of the thread, because the scope of the thread main thread is internal to main, right? So how we can make this to execute with the help of a keyword called static. Let me go and run this program. Yeah, here you go. You see here, first thing is static, this block has been executed, and the next thing is inside main method has been executed. The reason is that whenever you use static, it is at the class level, not at the object or the method levels. So that is the reason this piece of code has been executed by the main thread, and the same main thread is looking at, is there anything at the class level? And since you declare it as a class block, static block, that block has been executed. So when you go to the static keyword, we will see what do you mean by static, how to use it. Even if you guys see here, right? Public static void main. Why we have to use static keyword here? Why can't we simply say public void main arguments? Isn't it? See, there is error. Main method is not static. So why we have to do main method as static is, if I am trying to execute something, right, my thread should know where to start. That is nothing but main method. This main method should be static because you are writing this main method inside this class, isn't it? But you are not writing a line of statement to create an object of this class and then call this main method, isn't it? So what I'm trying to say is, here, forget all about all this. Very simple Java code. Let me run this. Now you are able to see this line of statement, right? But as I said earlier, class is a blueprint and object is template of or whatever instance of a class, right? So this is a class and this is a method. Who is actually executing this method? Without getting an object of this class, I'm able to execute this main method, isn't it? How we are able to execute it? So with the help of static keyword. Whenever you declare a static, which means that particular property is at the class level, which means you don't need to create an object. You don't need to create an object for that particular property to execute it. Assume, let's say I'm having public string get data, something like this, right? And then let's say return something called Red9SysTech. Okay, guys. So what I'm trying to do here is public string get data. This is like one method I'm writing here, and I'm define it as a declaring return type should be string. So I'm saying return Red9SysTech. So if you want to call this particular method here, right? So how I can call it? With the help of object, right? Because this method is inside this class. This is also inside this class, but this method is a static method. So you cannot call from static method to non-static methods. So the way how you can call this method here inside this main method is by creating an object of this class. Okay, new block demo of, and then bd dot, right, get data. The moment you call like this, it won't be problem, because you are calling from static method and non-static method, but you're using object. So using object, you can access static as well as non-static. So let me run this program. It should be in this sysout. Because it is returning some string value, right? Let me run it, put it in the string. See, Red9SysTech, right? Assume that if I'm making this also static, what will happen? Let's go and run this program. No worries, because static properties can be accessed with the help of objects or even directly with the class name. Instead of writing all this, you can simply say get data of, it works. See, here you're writing code to create an object of this class, and using the object you are calling, isn't it? When it was non-static, but now it's static, you can simply call like this as well. If you remove this one, it will throw an error, because you cannot call static from non-static. See, cannot make a static reference to the non-static method. So this is all about like how to call a methods. I think we have an assignment where you will go through the upcoming topics of what is method, what is main method, how to call method to another method, like that. So hope you guys will understand over there. But since I'm starting about talking about static keyword, I was explaining about how to call static methods and non-static methods here. Okay, so this is about like how to create a blocks. And whenever you try to create a block in Java, which means like every statement should go into block. Either it can be inside the class, or it should be inside typical block, or it can be inside a method. Even the method is a block, because block is nothing but anything within curly brace, as simple as such, right? Even your class, whenever you say public class name, you are writing everything within this curly braces, isn't it? So which means that is another block, right? So why we need to learn all these blocks are nothing but whenever you try to write your statements, you should know where you are writing your piece of code. So when you are writing like thousands lines of code in your typical application, and you have a requirement where you want to add some data to append some data to that. Let's say you are receiving from your REST API call, or from your client, you are getting something like Karthik, and you want to process the data, string data, let's say that is called first name, and you are receiving second name or last name as Ponusami, right? Then you want to process it, right? So to add like Karthik hyphen Ponusami, like that. Then you, if you write it in your actual piece place where your actual business logic goes, that looks ugly. So what you have to do is you have to simply create another method in the same class, and simply say receiving like this, like say public, and you are going to return back, let's say Karthik hyphen Ponusami, right? So which means it's a string, right? So what you can do here is public string process data, something like that, and then you have to write your own statements here. Here you can receive first name and last name, so it's of type string. So string first name comma string last name. So two names you're receiving it, right, from the user or from the whoever is you are calling, and then you are returning saying first name. This is all about requirement. Plus, let's say you want to do a hyphen, and then you want to say last name, right? This is how you want to process and send back. Okay. So now this method, whatever you call this method, first name and last name, this is going to turn like this. So what you can do is you can simply call this from your place, like dd dot, you guys see here, process data of string first name comma string last name, which means you have to give, here you have to give the string as Karthik, and here you have to give the name as Sami, and where you can see we call it, right, you have to call this, isn't it? So you have to print this one, because whenever your method is returning a string or whatever the value you want to print it, you have to put it in the sysout statement. Or what you can do here is you can store string s is equal to on this, and then you can print that in the sysout. You can say yes, right? That is a variable you're storing it. If you guys see here, Karthik hyphen Punasam. If I'm writing this logic by adding this and this, right, inside here itself, I can write it here itself. I don't need to always call a method. But the flow of your control, or what your actual the business logic you're writing in the main class, that should go here. And whatever you're trying to do, any utility kind of stuff, you can put in another method where you can reuse it. The another importance of using a method is nothing but you can reuse it whenever you want. If you write this logic here itself, then if you want it again in some other class or some other place, then you have to again write the same logic, right? That is the reason we have to categorize the statements which are kind of, if you think like that is kind of repeated one, or you might be using in future places, then you can categorize into a method, and you can call that method wherever you want, so that these methods are like separate. It's kind of like building blocks of this class, I can say, right? So this is how you have to write a method, main method, static keywords, and blocks, and how you can organize your class whenever you write it. So you guys see here, if is a reserved keyword, true is a reserved keyword, right? You can see the difference in the highlighting ones. So I think today is kind of very lightweight concepts which we have seen. Let me go to our syllabus here. So packages, comments, reserved keywords, statements, and blocks we have seen so far. Methods, main methods, and identifiers. This is kind of assignment which you guys can go through. You guys can follow this link here. You can directly click here, so it will automatically take you to the particular video where you can understand what is methods, or what are all the points which I was trying to explain about methods, main methods, and identifiers. So use this as a kind of booklet where you can, whenever you want to browse it to each topic, you can simply click on the particular URL. It will directly take you to the particular video where you can learn about it. So methods, main methods is already I discussed, but you guys can go through it again to see how it works. And in next class, we will be watching, or we will be learning about variables and constants, types of variables, assignment separatists. I think like we can cover this one too. We will see how the time sets for us. So today's class is done, meaning like we are covered our topics. So anyone have any questions or any open questions about Java, or any general questions about Java or projects or anything like that? Feel free to ask or share. This is like kind of a interactive sessions where you guys can talk about it, so you guys will get more comfortable. It's kind of like a fun and learning while we talk and learn something better. So no questions actually.
Karthik, one question. Like you mentioned that main method is always static, right?
Yeah.
So that is, internally, yeah. So the first, thread which gets executed, that is what you mentioned. So internally, can you explain one more time how it works?
Okay, perfect. No problem. One thing, let's get up to main method demo. Okay. So let me clear the consoles. Now simply saying sysout statement, line 1, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay. Now I want to debug this statement or this class. Okay. I want to run this program in a debug mode. So you guys will understand from where it is getting executed, how it is getting looking through, right? So every class, whenever you create a class in Java, whenever you run it, the JVM at the runtime, it allocates one thread for this particular class to execute. When I say thread to execute, which is very first thread is main thread. Whenever you create another method, for that method, there will be another thread will be getting created, allocated. And once that method is getting executed done, then that thread will get uh, available for garbage and that thread is no more useful. But main thread will be there, is still it executes till last line of statement in this method. So when I say main method, the reason why we are making it as static is that JVM is going to execute this or allocating main thread to execute this main method without creating an object of this class, right? So let's say this is your class, public class name. You are not writing anything here. Let's go and execute this. Which one I'm running it? Which code is getting executed? Hold on. Why is this running this one? I think it's done. That's just not clear. Okay, now let me run this one. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is without main method, if you try to run this program, you won't have anything because your JVM doesn't know what method to run, right? But if you say main string this particular pattern, it means you
Mm-hmm.
run main method without creating an object of this class, you can able to go and run it. So let me put a debug statement here. Run debug mode. So you can see here, right? The arguments are string 0, right? Which is stated here. Whatever.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to execute like this. So println statement, right? Return no explicit because it's not returning anything. Okay. So next one, next one, next one. So this all has been executed by the main thread. Okay. So if you have like
Yeah.
thread dump analyzer or any other tools where you can see which thread is actually executing this one, you will see the thread name is main thread. Basically, you can use that equal to like multi-threading concept, but I'm just showing you guys. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can get an object of the class, and you can say c dot name. Okay, you can print what is the name. Now you guys will see. You guys see that thread is zero. This is the thread created for me. This is the thread I created. This is thread. Okay, so this is how you can create your own defined thread. And if you want to see the main thread, you can able to see that thread name here. So that will say thread name is main. The main thread is responsible to create or execute this particular piece of code. And here I explicitly created a thread class or thread, and I'm just getting a name to show you what is the thread name. It starts with thread -0, thread -1, thread -2, like that. So to know which thread is executing this piece of code. Okay. So till here you will see how many threads are there, and here you can see how many threads are there. So basically you can see all stack traces. I'm sure that will print everything here, but let me see what it prints. All stack trace. Thread signal dispatcher java.lang.stack trace. If you see, this is the main thread. Thread name is main. So in this piece of code, line number 12 or line number 11, right? Till here, these are executed by the thread called main. You can see here, I'm highlighting here. The name of the thread is main. Thread with the name is main. This is the priority of a thread. You will see when you go to multi-threading concept, what is thread priorities, what is how to get the name of a thread and how to set a name of a thread, how to make your uh, thread to work in a different way, all those stuff. But just for understanding here, when I say like this particular piece of code is executed by main thread, this is the proof that the thread name is main here. And if you guys see here, there are like so many handlers we have inside this particular thread class. So when you go in deeper into thread, if you guys see here, right, t dot, you guys can see a lot of methods you have. You can get the ID, you can get the name, you can get the priority, right? You can get the hash code, and you can see whether the thread is still alive or not. And you can get the class, and also you can see what is the state of a thread, what is the maximum priority, minimum priority, how do you can group it, the list of threads. Basically, if you guys see here, right, in the multi-threading concepts, they are going to get deeper into that. How to define a thread, how to override start method, run method, and if you guys see here, we have thread groups, right? Where we are going to see what is thread lifecycle, what is thread groups. These are all about all the threads. Okay. So main method is always executed by main thread, which is the first thread which is created by JVM to execute the main method. The reason why the main method is static is nothing but without creating an object of the class, you can able to execute this main method, right? If you want to do it at the class level, then you can declare that method as static. If you are writing some method here, and if you want to call the properties or if you want to call that method, then you have to create an object, because you know that a class is nothing but variables and methods. And whenever you try to create an object of a class, using that object dot, you can able to access that variables and methods, isn't it? That is a normal way of creating a class, variables, methods, creating an object. Using the object dot, you can able to access it. This is the one way. Second way is, if you think that you don't need to create an object of the class and you can able to access at the class level, then you can make that particular variable as a class variable, or sorry, class level variable as static. Otherwise, you can make that method as a static in terms of class level method. Then you don't need to create an object of the class to access it. If you guys still want to get more clarity, I can simply write a class here. So class A, I have, okay, I have class B. Oops, what I'm doing, class B, right? So whenever you have a class A, and if you want to access this, let's say you have a variable called int, int, let's say salary equal to 1000. So how you can able to access this variable here with the help of object, right? Your class is having a variable. You can ignore this part, right? Your class is having a variable called salary. If you want to access this variable of a class, you can create an object, right? First thing, a equal to new a of, only then you can able to access it, isn't it? A dot, then it's salary. But if you make this as static, sorry, right? You don't need to create like this. You can simply say a dot salary. Name itself, we can able to access it.
Class, yeah. Class, we have to make it static or variable inside the class.
You can make a class static. That's called like inner classes. You can make it static. The static keyword can be used in the variable or methods, and even at the inner classes. But you can't make static keyword at the outer classes. Basically, you can make it in classes. So when you go in deeper about inner class and nested classes, we will see that.
Mhm.
They
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Thank you, Karthik.
Yeah, sure. Where I think we have static keyword separately. If you see here, 51. What is static nested class? Static keyword and no need to define object for that static class. Directly use the class name. I define here, right? Because
Yes, yes.
the thing I have to define for the concept here. We will go through that actually. Okay, when you come,
Sure, Karthik. Yeah. Thank you.
no problem. It will be very interesting when you guys talk about Java 1.8 and multi-threading, because whenever you have opportunity to tune your application, you always getting a challenge work, right? So where you can use your multi-threading knowledge to post-mortem your application in and out. All right. Any other questions you guys have today on these concepts?
I don't have any questions, Karthik, for today.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, please let me know if you guys have anything, and I would strongly recommend you guys to follow this plan so that like you guys can drive along with me, so that even if you guys don't understand something or if you have some questions regarding this particular concept, right, you can simply watch it out. Whatever I define here, like mostly the same concepts I was explaining in the live class as well. So you can refer it there, and then if it's still not clear, then we can discuss in the next class. So in our program, let's say 55 days, I think, right? So you guys will become an expert in Java by in 2 weeks, sorry, 2 months, right? So I respect your time in learning the new concepts and the language. It's like very wonderful thing. Okay, all right. If you guys don't have any questions for today, we will regroup tomorrow to talk about the other concepts like variables, constants, types of variables, and segment separators. And I will try to see if I can cover this too as well in that 6 and 7 together. The topics are very simple. All right, guys. We'll talk tomorrow then. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you, Karthik.
Thank you.
Exactly.